Lily sat in the corner of her room, knees pulled to her chest, rocking back and forth.
Sweetheart, please.
Nora begged, kneeling on the floor.
Just say something. Anything.
But the little girl's eyes stayed empty, locked somewhere far away, where mothers couldn't reach. It had been 8 months since the accident. 8 months of silence. 8 months of watching her daughter disappear. Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Mr. William Chronicles, where we tell stories that make you feel something real. Today we bring you a powerful story of unspeakable loss, unexpected connection, and a grieving father who proved that broken hearts can still heal the ones they love. So sit back and hit that subscribe button, and let's begin. She just paid $50,000 for a specialist to fly in from Switzerland. Her daughter looked at him once and screamed until she passed out. That's when Nora Ashford knew she was losing her, and she had no idea how to fight back. Nora was 43 years old, CEO of Ashford Industries, a tech empire worth $4 billion. She'd negotiated with presidents, crushed hostile takeovers, made grown men cry in boardrooms. But she couldn't make her 9-year-old daughter speak. 8 months ago, 2 police officers knocked on her door at 11:37 p.m. Nora remembered the exact time because she kept staring at the grandfather clock in the foyer, thinking if she could just freeze that moment, rewind those seconds, maybe she could change what they were about to say. Mrs. Ashford, there's been an accident. Her husband James was driving home from a charity gala. A drunk driver crossed the median on the FDR. The impact killed James instantly. He never felt pain, they told her, as if that made it better. Lily was upstairs in her princess nightgown, waiting to show her father a dance she'd learned. She heard her mother scream, watched Nora crumble onto the marble floor like a building collapsing from the inside out. She hasn't spoken since. Not one word. Not mommy. Not I'm scared. Not even help. Just silence. Deep, suffocating, endless silence. At first, the doctors said it was acute stress response. Temporary. She'd talk when she was ready. 6 weeks passed. Then 8. Then 12. The temporary diagnosis became selective mutism with traumatic onset. Nora hired the best child psychologists in New York, Dr. Patricia Reynolds from Columbia Presbyterian. Lily sat through 6 sessions without making a sound. Dr. Michael Chun, a trauma specialist who'd worked with war refugees. Lily turned her back to him and stared at the wall for 45 minutes straight. Nora flew in experts from London, Paris, Zurich. Spent over $300,000. Each one left with the same defeated expression and some version of, "She needs time, Mrs. Ashford. There's nothing more we can do." Time. As if time could heal the hole her daughter was disappearing into. The nannies didn't last either. 8 of them in 8 months. Mrs. Martha, with 25 years of experience, quit after Lily locked her in the bathroom for 3 hours. Andrea, the gentle one who sang lullabies, left when Lily threw a plate across the room that shattered inches from her head. Nora stopped hiring after that. Her company started falling apart. She missed board meetings, canceled international trips. Her VP of operations sent a carefully worded email suggesting she take a temporary leave of absence to focus on family matters. Translation: You're becoming a liability. Pierce Holdings tried to acquire them at a 30% discount, smelling blood in the water. Their stock dropped 14% in 2 months. Business Weekly ran a headline: Can Nora Ashford lead while her personal life crumbles? She didn't care. Let the company burn. Let the vultures circle. Her daughter was dying inside, and she was watching it happen. Every morning, Nora would go to Lily's room. The girl would be sitting by the window, clutching the last gift James gave her, a stuffed rabbit with button eyes. Nora would try to talk to her, ask about breakfast, school, anything. Lily would just stare through her like she was glass. At night, Nora would stand outside her daughter's door and listen to her cry. Soft, broken sobs that Lily muffled into her pillow. Nora would press her palm against the door, wanting to burst in and hold her, but knowing that her touch only made the child flinch. She was Lily's mother. She'd carried her for 9 months. Stayed up through every fever, every nightmare, every scraped knee. She'd built an empire so her daughter could have everything. And now she couldn't even make her look at her. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. Nora was in her office, the one connected to Lily's playroom at Ashford Tower. She designed it that way after James died, so she could keep her daughter close while she worked. The playroom had everything: art supplies, books, soft rugs, toys Lily never touched. Security footage showed her everything in real time. She watched her daughter on the monitor, curled beneath the craft table, rocking back and forth. Just rocking, like a broken metronome counting down to nothing. Nora stood up to go to her, then stopped. What would she say that she hadn't already said? What could she do that she hadn't tried? She sank back into her chair and put her face in her hands. For the first time since James died, she prayed, "Please, I don't care what it costs. I don't care who. Just send someone who can reach her." That's when she saw him on the security feed. A maintenance worker had entered the playroom to empty the trash. He noticed Lily under the table, froze, started to back out quietly. But then Lily made a sound. Not a word, just a soft, wounded whimper that cut through the audio feed like broken glass. The man stopped, set down his trash bag slowly, carefully. Then he did something no therapist, no specialist, no expert had done. He sat down on the floor, 5 feet away from her. Didn't speak, didn't approach, just sat there. And Nora's daughter lifted her head. Welcome back to Mr. William Chronicles, where we tell stories that make you feel something real. If you've ever felt completely powerless to help someone you love, hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel. Because what happened next changed everything. His name was Caleb Rivers, and he arrived at Ashford Tower every morning at 4:30 a.m., when the city was still dark and the streets belonged to garbage trucks and insomniacs. 40 years old, silver threads weaving through dark hair, eyes that had seen the end of everything and kept breathing anyway. He wore the same Navy maintenance uniform every day, pushed the same cart through the same hallways, emptied trash bins, mopped floors, fixed broken things. Nobody knew his name. Nobody asked. That's exactly how he wanted it. Invisible, forgettable. Just another faceless worker in a building full of people too important to notice the man who cleaned up after them. But Caleb hadn't always been invisible. 3 years ago, he'd been someone different, someone whole. He'd been an art teacher at Riverside Elementary in Brooklyn. The kind of teacher kids remembered decades later. The one who saw potential in messy paintings and crooked clay sculptures. Who stayed late to help struggling students. Who believed that creativity could heal anything. He'd been married to Hannah, 14 years. High school sweethearts who'd grown up together in Vermont, moved to New York chasing dreams. And he'd been a father, Grace. His daughter's name was Grace, and she'd been the center of his entire universe. She had his dark hair and Hannah's green eyes. A gap-toothed smile that could light up a room. Drawings taped to every wall of their small apartment. She wanted to be an artist like her dad. Talked about opening a gallery where everyone's art was beautiful, even if it was messy. Grace was 6 when the headache started. 7 when the diagnosis came. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. The words had shattered their world like a hammer through glass. 2 years of hospitals, chemotherapy, radiation, experimental treatments. Grace's hair falling out in clumps. Her small body ravaged by poison meant to save her. Caleb holding her hand through every needle stick, every blood draw, every terrifying night when her fever spiked and the nurses rushed in. Hannah couldn't handle it. She tried. God knows she tried. But watching their daughter deteriorate broke something fundamental inside her. She stopped sleeping, stopped eating, started having panic attacks in hospital corridors. Caleb became both parents. He quit teaching, lived at the hospital, slept in chairs beside Grace's bed. He carved wooden animals with a pocket knife to make her smile. Birds, rabbits, elephants. "Tell me a story about this one, Daddy," Grace would whisper, her voice weak but still full of wonder. So he did. He spun tales about brave wooden creatures who went on adventures. about a bird who couldn't fly but learned to sing so beautifully that other birds carried her on their wings. "That's me," Grace said once, holding the carved bird against her chest. "I can't run anymore, but you carry me." Caleb had to leave the room to cry. Grace died 3 weeks before her 8th birthday. Caleb was holding her hand. She squeezed his fingers once, smiled at him, and whispered, "Love doesn't end, Daddy. It just changes shape." Then she was gone. The funeral was small. Hannah stood beside him like a ghost, hollow-eyed and trembling. She couldn't look at the casket, couldn't look at him. 6 months later, Caleb woke up to find a note on the kitchen table. "I can't do this anymore. Every time I look at you, I see her. Every corner of this apartment is full of her ghost. I'm drowning, Caleb. I tried to be strong like you, but I'm not. I'm sorry. I love you, but I have to go." Hannah left that night. Disappeared. Changed her phone number. Her sister said she checked into a psychiatric facility somewhere upstate, but wouldn't say where. Caleb searched for months. Hospitals, clinics, shelters. Nothing. He lost his daughter, then his wife, then himself. He couldn't go back to teaching, couldn't be around children without seeing Grace in every small face, hearing her laughter in every playground, smelling her strawberry shampoo in every classroom. So he became invisible. He worked construction, drove trucks, delivered packages, washed dishes, anything that kept him moving, kept him from standing still long enough to feel the emptiness. 2 months ago, a temp agency sent him to Ashford Tower for overnight maintenance. The pay was decent. The hours were lonely. Perfect. Every night after his shift, Caleb went home to his studio apartment in Queens, sat under a weak yellow bulb, and carved. Wooden birds, mostly, just like the ones he'd made for Grace. He didn't know why he still did it. Maybe because when his hands were moving, shaping something beautiful from nothing, he could pretend she was still there, still asking for stories, still believing her father could make magic from wood and love. He kept the birds in a shoebox under his bed, dozens of them, an army of small wooden miracles that nobody would ever see, until that Thursday night when he found a little girl hiding under a table, drowning in the same ocean of grief that had swallowed him whole. Caleb had pulled out the newest bird from his pocket, set it on the floor between them, and for the first time in 3 years, he told story out loud. "My daughter Grace loved birds," he'd said quietly. "She said they were proof that broken things could still fly." The little girl had reached out one trembling hand and touched the carved wing, and something inside Caleb's dead heart flickered back to life. Nora watched the security footage 3 more times before she made her decision. Each time, the same thing happened. The maintenance worker sat down, waited, said something she couldn't hear through the audio, and her daughter, her silent, unreachable daughter, touched the wooden bird he'd placed between them. It was nearly midnight when Nora pulled his employee file. Caleb Rivers, 40 years old, maintenance contractor through Clean Tech Solutions. Previous employment, Riverside Elementary School, Brooklyn. Position, art teacher. Employment ended February 2021. She dug deeper. Found his wife's name, Hannah Rivers. Found a 7-year-old obituary in the Brooklyn Daily Eagle. Grace Elizabeth Rivers, age 8, passed away peacefully after a courageous battle with leukemia. Survived by her loving parents, Caleb and Hannah Rivers. Nora's hand trembled as she closed the file. He'd lost a child. The next morning, she summoned him to her office. Caleb arrived in his work uniform, confusion written across his face. He'd probably never been to the executive floor during daylight hours. "Sit down, Mr. Rivers," Nora said, her voice carefully controlled. He sat, hands clasped, eyes fixed on the floor. "Did I do something wrong, ma'am?" "No." She pushed a contract across the desk. "I want to hire you." His eyes flickered with confusion. "I already work here. Not as maintenance." Nora took a breath. "As my daughter's companion." The silence stretched between them like glass about to shatter. "Mrs. Ashford, I'm not qualified." "Neither am I," she interrupted, her voice cracking. "I've spent 8 months and $300,000 on qualified people. They all failed." You sat with her for 5 minutes, and she responded. Caleb shook his head slowly. I don't understand what you're asking. I'm asking you to spend time with Lily. Talk to her. Do whatever you did last night. I don't care what it costs. It's not about money. His voice was quiet but firm. It's about whether I can actually help her. Can you? He was silent for a long moment. Then, I know what she's feeling. When my daughter died, everyone wanted me to move on. Be strong. But I didn't want to be strong. I wanted to break. Maybe that's what Lily needs, someone who won't force her to be okay. Nora felt tears burning behind her eyes. Then help her break. Help her grieve. Just help her come back. Caleb agreed on one condition. He wouldn't pretend to be a therapist. He'd just be someone who understood. That afternoon, he came to Nora's penthouse for the first time. The living room overlooked Central Park, all marble and glass and expensive art. Everything money could buy. Nothing that mattered. Lily was in her room. Nora knocked softly. Sweetheart, there's someone here to see you. No response. Caleb stepped forward. Lily, it's me, the man from last night. I brought you something. The door opened a crack. One hazel I peered through. Caleb knelt down, making himself small and unthreatening. He held out another wooden carving. A rabbit this time, ears slightly crooked. This rabbit couldn't hop, he said softly. All the other rabbits laughed at him. But he didn't give up. Want to know why? The door opened wider. Lily stood there in an oversized sweater, clutching her stuffed rabbit. She nodded. Because he had a secret, Caleb continued. He knew that what makes us special isn't what we're good at. It's that we never give up on the people we love. Lily took the wooden rabbit, held it against her chest. And then, so quietly Nora almost missed it, she whispered, Can you teach me? Nora's hand flew to her mouth. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Those were the first words her daughter had spoken in 8 months. Over the following weeks, something extraordinary happened. Caleb came every afternoon. He'd sit with Lily in the sunroom, carving wood while she watched. He never pushed, never demanded, just existed beside her with quiet, patient understanding. He told stories about Grace, funny ones, sad ones, real ones. Grace used to say the silliest things, he'd say, smiling at the memory. Once she told me that clouds were just the sky's way of crying happy tears. Lily listened, absorbing every word. And slowly she began to talk, first in whispers, then in full sentences, telling Caleb about her father, about the night he died, about the crushing weight of missing someone so much it hurt to breathe. Caleb never told her it would get better. He just said, I know. I miss Grace every single day. But talking about her keeps her alive in here. He touched his chest. That's what love does. It stays. Nora watched from doorways, her heart breaking and healing simultaneously. She noticed things about Caleb she hadn't allowed herself to see before. The gentle strength in his hands as he carved. The way his voice softened when Lily asked questions. The sadness that never quite left his eyes, even when he smiled. She noticed how he looked at her daughter with such tenderness it made her chest ache. And she noticed how, when their eyes met across the room, something electric passed between them. Something that felt like recognition. Like two people who'd walked through the same fire, finally finding someone who understood the scars. One evening, after Lily fell asleep clutching the wooden rabbit, Nora found Caleb on her terrace. The city glittered below them, a million lights in the darkness. Thank you, she said, standing beside him, close enough to feel his warmth. She's healing me too, Caleb replied, his voice low. Grace used to say that love doesn't end when someone dies. It just changes shape. I didn't believe her. But watching Lily find her voice again, maybe Grace was right. Nora's throat tightened. I didn't think I'd ever feel anything again after James. Caleb turned to face her. The space between them felt charged, dangerous. Maybe we're not supposed to feel whole again, he said softly. Maybe we just find people who understand our broken pieces. Their eyes locked. Nora's heart hammered against her ribs. She saw it in his face. The same longing, the same fear, the same desperate need for connection that was tearing her apart inside. Neither of them moved. But something shifted in that moment. Something inevitable. Comment below if you believe broken people can find love again. Because what Nora and Caleb are about to face will test everything they're building. If you are still here with us, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. The kiss happened 3 weeks later, on a Tuesday night that neither of them planned. Lily had woken up screaming at 2 a.m. Nora was there instantly, but her daughter pushed her away, sobbing for her father, for Caleb, for anyone but the mother who couldn't fix her. Nora called him without thinking, her hands shaking as she dialed. Voice breaking, "I'm sorry. I know it's late, but she's asking for you. I'll be right there." He arrived 20 minutes later in sweatpants and an old shirt, hair disheveled, concern written across his face. Lily ran to him the moment he walked through the door, wrapped her small arms around his waist, and cried into his chest. Caleb held her, whispered quiet reassurances, carried her back to bed, and sat beside her until she fell asleep, his hand stroking her hair with infinite gentleness. When he emerged from Lily's room, Nora was standing in the kitchen, tears streaming down her face. "I can't even comfort my own daughter," she whispered. "What kind of mother am I?" "Nora, she wants you. Not me. You." Caleb crossed the space between them in 3 strides. "That's not true. She loves you. She's drowning, and right now I'm the life raft because I've already drowned. I know the way back." "I don't know how to do this," Nora said, her voice cracking. "I don't know how to be strong anymore." "Then don't be." His hands found her shoulders, warm and steady. "Be broken. Be scared. Be human." She looked up at him. His face was close, so close she could see the silver in his stubble, the exhaustion in his eyes, the tenderness that made her chest ache. "Caleb," she breathed, and then his mouth was on hers. The kiss was desperate, hungry. Everything neither of them had felt in years, suddenly igniting like a match struck in darkness. Nora's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, his fingers tangled in her hair. She tasted salt, his tears or hers, she didn't know. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Nora whispered, "I haven't felt this alive since." "I know." His forehead pressed against hers. "Me, neither." They stood there in the kitchen, holding each other like drowning people clutching debris in a storm. After that night, everything changed. Caleb still came every afternoon for Lily, but now he stayed for dinner, then later, then overnight in the guest room when Lily had nightmares and needed him close. Stolen moments became their secret language, his fingers tracing the curve of her spine in the shadowed hallway after Lily fell asleep, her breath catching when he kissed her neck in the kitchen while pretending to help with dishes, whispered confessions in the dark of her bedroom, their bodies tangled in sheets, learning each other's scars. "Tell me about James," Caleb said one night, his hand resting on her bare shoulder. Nora was quiet for a long moment. "He was good, kind. We built something stable together, but it wasn't fire. And this." His thumb traced her collarbone. "This terrifies me." She turned to face him, eyes glistening in the moonlight. "Because what if I lose you too?" Caleb kissed her forehead. "Then we'll have had this. Right now. That's more than I thought I'd ever have again." They made love like people who'd forgotten what touch felt like, slow and reverent. His hands, rough from years of manual labor, impossibly gentle as they explored her skin. She hadn't been held like this, with hunger and tenderness, since before James got sick, before grief consumed everything. Caleb worshipped her body like a man grateful for resurrection, kissed every inch of her, made her remember what it felt like to be wanted, not just needed. Afterward, they lay in the dark, listening to each other breathe. "Grace would have liked you," Caleb said quietly. Nora smiled against his chest. "James would have liked you too. He always said I needed someone who wasn't afraid of my fire." "I'm not afraid of anything about you." But Lily noticed everything. Children always do. She started drawing pictures of 3 people holding hands, a woman, a man, and a small girl in the middle. She called Caleb Papa C. one afternoon while they were carving, and Nora's heart stopped. "Is that okay?" Lily asked, suddenly uncertain. Can I call him that? Caleb's eyes found Nora's across the room. The question hung between them, heavy with meaning. If he's okay with it, Nora said carefully. Are you okay with that, Caleb? His voice was thick with emotion. I'd be honored. Lily beamed and went back to her carving, but Nora saw Caleb wipe his eyes when he thought no one was looking. That night, after Lily went to bed, they sat on the terrace under the stars. Caleb pulled Nora against his chest, his arms wrapped around her waist. This feels like a family, she whispered. It is a family. He kissed the top of her head. Not the one either of us planned. But maybe that's what makes it real. For 2 months, they existed in this fragile, perfect bubble. 3 broken people learning to be whole together. Nora laughed again. Lily smiled every day. Caleb stopped looking like a ghost. They went to the park on Sundays, made pancakes on Saturday mornings, told stories at bedtime, Caleb's about Grace, Nora's about James, teaching Lily that love doesn't disappear just because someone dies. Nora believed they could do this, that shattered people could build something beautiful from the wreckage. She believed in second chances. She believed in love after loss. Until the day Hannah knocked on her door. Nora was in a board meeting when her assistant's face appeared on the conference room screen, pale and uncertain. Mrs. Ashford, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a woman at your penthouse. She says she's Caleb's wife. The room tilted. Nora's coffee cup slipped from her hand, shattering against the mahogany table. Dark liquid spread across quarterly reports like blood. Excuse me, she managed, her voice distant. We'll reconvene tomorrow. She made it to the elevator before her knees buckled. 20 minutes later, Nora stepped into her own home, feeling like an intruder. The woman sitting on her couch looked nothing like she'd imagined. Hannah Rivers was petite, blonde hair pulled into a simple ponytail, wearing jeans and a worn cardigan. She looked fragile, like porcelain held together with hope and apologies. Around her neck hung a thin silver chain, and dangling from it, Caleb's wedding ring. Mrs. Ashford. Hannah stood, hands clasped nervously. I'm sorry to come here unannounced. I'm Hannah, Caleb's wife. Ex-wife, Nora corrected, her voice ice. Not legally. Hannah's voice trembled. We never divorced. I just left. The words hung in the air like smoke. Nora's assistant had taken Lily to the park, thank God. She couldn't let her daughter witness this. Why are you here? Nora asked, forcing herself to remain composed. Hannah's eyes filled with tears. I know about you. About Lily. About what Caleb's been doing here. And I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to ask for my husband back. You left him. Nora's voice was sharp as broken glass. When he needed you most. When he was drowning. You abandoned him. I know. Hannah's tears spilled over. I was drowning too. Grace's death destroyed me. I tried to be strong like Caleb, but I couldn't. Every morning I woke up and had to remember she was gone. Every room in our apartment was full of her ghost. Her drawings on the walls. Her toys. Her smell in the pillows. She wiped her face with shaking hands. I tried to end my life, Mrs. Ashford. Twice. The second time, I woke up in a psychiatric ward. They kept me there for 6 months. Then I went to a long-term treatment facility upstate. I've been there for 2 years, learning how to live with grief instead of dying from it. Despite herself, Nora felt a flicker of something. Not sympathy exactly, but recognition. She knew that kind of pain. I'm better now, Hannah continued, her voice steadier. I've done the work. Therapy. Medication. I've learned how to remember Grace without breaking. And I want to fix what I destroyed. I want my husband back. I want to heal together, the way we should have from the beginning. It's been 3 years, Nora said, her voice harsh to cover the fear clawing at her chest. You can't just come back and expect. I know. Hannah stepped closer. But I made vows to that man. 14 years of marriage doesn't just disappear because I broke. I owe it to Caleb, to Grace's memory, to try. Don't I deserve a second chance? Before Nora could respond, she heard the key in the lock. Caleb walked through the door, laughing at something on his phone. He looked up and froze. Every drop of color drained from his face. Hannah. The name fell from his lips like a prayer and a curse. Hannah moved toward him, tears streaming down her face. Hi, Caleb. What are you? How did you? He couldn't form a complete sentence. I've been looking for you for 6 months, Hannah said softly. I finally found you. And I need to say this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for leaving. For abandoning you when we should have grieved together. I was sick, Caleb. I'm better now. And I want to come home. Caleb stood frozen, his eyes darting between Hannah and Nora. The war playing out across his face was devastating to witness. You can't just appear after 3 years, he said, his voice hoarse. I know. But I'm here now. I'm ready now. Hannah took another step forward. I'm ready to remember Grace together. To visit her grave. To talk about her without falling apart. Please, Caleb. Don't throw away 14 years of marriage. Don't give up on us. Nora watched Caleb's expression shift. Pain, confusion, guilt, obligation. All the things she'd been afraid of seeing. I need time, he said finally, his voice barely audible. Hannah nodded. I understand. I'm staying at the Hampton Inn on Lexington. Room 412. I'll wait as long as you need. She moved toward the door, then paused. Looked back at Nora with eyes full of desperate determination. I know you care about him, Hannah said quietly. But I'm his wife. We buried our daughter together. We have history. We have vows. And I'm fighting for my marriage. Then she was gone. The silence that followed felt like the world ending. Nora stared at Caleb, who stood motionless in the center of the room, looking like he'd been hit by a truck. Caleb, she whispered. He turned to her, and the anguish in his eyes made her chest crack open. I don't know what to do, he said, his voice breaking. She's asking for the second chance I begged her to give me 3 years ago. How do I say no to that? Do you still love her? The question hung between them like a blade. I don't know, he admitted, and those 3 words destroyed everything. What we had died with Grace. But she's right, we made vows. And she was sick. She didn't leave because she stopped loving me. She left because grief nearly killed her. And what about us? Nora's voice cracked. What about Lily? I don't know. The words exploded from him. I need time to think. I'm sorry, Nora. I just need time. He walked out the door without looking back. That night, Lily found her mother crying in the dark living room, staring at nothing. Mama? Where's Papa C? He had to go, sweetheart. Lily's face crumbled. The light that had returned to her eyes over the past months flickered and died. Is he coming back? I don't know, baby. I don't know. Lily didn't speak for 3 days after that. The silence returned like a familiar ghost, and Nora understood. She hadn't just lost Caleb. She was losing her daughter all over again. If you think Caleb should choose love over guilt, drop a comment. Because what he decides next changes everything. If you are still here with us, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. 8 days. That's how long Caleb stayed away. 8 days of Lily refusing to eat. 8 days of Nora watching her daughter disappear back into silence. 8 days of both of them dying slowly in separate apartments across the city. On the 9th morning, Nora's doorbell rang at 6 a.m. She opened it to find Caleb standing in the hallway, eyes red and hollow, still wearing yesterday's clothes. He looked like he hadn't slept in a week. He probably hadn't. I told Hannah no, he said, his voice wrecked. I told her I can't go back. Nora's breath caught. She didn't move, afraid if she did, this moment would shatter like glass. What we had died with Grace, Caleb continued, stepping closer. And I can't resurrect it just because she's finally ready. I wasn't ready then. She left when I was drowning, and I don't blame her anymore, but I can't pretend those years didn't happen. Caleb, I love you. The words came out broken but certain. Not because you're replacing anything. Because you make me want to live again. Because when I'm with you and Lily, I remember what it feels like to have a future. Nora closed the distance between them, her hands framing his face. I love you too. Their kiss was desperate, hungry, tasting of salt and relief. When they finally pulled apart, a small voice came from behind them. Papa C. Lily stood in the hallway, clutching her wooden butterfly, eyes wide with hope and fear. Caleb dropped to his knees. Hey, sweetheart. You came back. Her voice trembled. Always, he promised, opening his arms. I'll always come back. Lily ran into his embrace, and Nora joined them, the three of them holding each other on the marble floor as morning light spilled through the windows. A family forged not from blood, but from shared brokenness and the courage to heal together. 6 months later, Central Park bloomed with spring. Lily sat cross-legged on the grass, carefully painting the wooden ducks she'd carved with Caleb's help. Her laughter rang out as one duck's bill came out crooked, perfectly imperfect. Nora and Caleb sat on a nearby bench, their shoulders touching, fingers intertwined, watching the girl who'd brought them together. Hannah signed the divorce papers yesterday, Caleb said quietly. Nora squeezed his hand. How do you feel? Free. He turned to her, his eyes clear for the first time since she'd met him. And grateful. Grace and James, I think they'd want us to be happy. They would, Nora whispered, leaning into him. Lily looked up from her ducks and grinned. Mom. Papa C. Come see. They walked over together, and Lily showed them her work. 3 ducks carved and painted in bright colors. This one's your mom. This one's Papa C. And this one's me. They're perfect, Nora said, her throat tight. Just like us, Lily declared. We're not perfect, but we fit together. Caleb pulled both of them close, and in that moment, surrounded by spring air and laughter and the impossible gift of second chances, 3 people who'd survived unimaginable loss became something beautiful. A family, not bound by tradition or blood, but by the fierce, imperfect love of those who chose each other in the light after walking through darkness. If this story reminded you that broken people can still build beautiful things, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to love again after loss. Drop a comment. What moment hit you hardest? I read every single one. Until next time, remember, sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about finding someone perfect. They're about finding someone who fits perfectly into your broken spaces.